Hey everyone, it's Amy here and welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be a love it or leave it on a brand new product from Hourglass. And so this is going to be my review and some swatches and some comparisons of the brand new Hourglass Ambient Lighting Edit Surreal Light palette. And I was so excited. This has been so hyped up on Instagram. I have been like eyeing it for so long, and then it finally released last week and I was so excited to get my hands on it. So I'm going to be sharing with you guys my thoughts and some swatches and some of the good and the bad and would I recommend it, or would I say leave it at the store, and all that kind of good stuff. So first of all, the packaging. You guys, this packaging is stunning. It's plastic, but it's this marble effect, and we've never seen anything quite like this, or at least I haven't in the last several years from Hourglass. They tend to do all of these kind of like really like chromy kind of packaging that are just beautiful and kind of mirrored, whether it's the dark stuff, the lighter stuff, they always kind of do that mirrored dark, you know, really pretty rich effect. And so this is the first time we've seen something like white and just totally different. So it's got this beautiful marble effect to it. Like I said, it is plastic, but it's really, really pretty and something totally different from Hourglass. So here's what it looks like. If you guys can see, it's white and kind of grayish with that marble effect. It's really pretty. It's something definitely unique, and I was excited to see them kind of get out of their comfort zone. So when you open the palette up, this is what it looks like, and it looks really, really pretty when you first look at it. You do get a mirror. Now, I know you guys all know already this is so ultra expensive. This was $80, and we will totally get to the whole price thing and the breakdown and all that in a second, because that's definitely one of my qualms with this product that I'm not super impressed with. So overall, it is a really small palette. It's nice and sturdy though. It has a mirror, so at least it has that going for it. But as far as the size goes, this palette, there is 4 of these smaller shades and then a bigger shade. Each of these are 1.4 grams, and then the bigger finishing powder is 4 grams. So this is a total of 9.6 grams of product for $80. So let me go ahead and kind of compare that to some of the other items I have in my collection, because I think the price for the quality, which I will get to in a second, is one of the reasons why I'm not absolutely in love with this palette as much as I thought I was going to be. So the first one is the ambient lighting powders. I love these, and I will talk about this one specifically in a little while. This one is diffused light. Just to give you guys a reference, this one is 10 grams. So this right here is bigger than this palette, and this retails for $46. So we have that. Then let's see, the next thing, I have one of the bronzers. This is the ambient lighting bronzer in the shade Luminous Bronze Light, and this one is 11 grams, so a little bit bigger than diffused light, and this one retails for $50. So a little bit bigger, a little bit more expensive. And then I do have 2 of the blushes. I have a peachy one and then I have a mauve one. So the blushes are 4.25 grams each, so you get about the same amount of product in here as you do in the finishing powder, which is the big guy over here. So for reference, they're about the same, and this retails for $38. So in my head, what I was kind of expecting was that one of these products is the same size as this. So if you're going to charge me $80, I should have about 1.5 to 2 times more product in here for the cost, considering this is about the same size for about half the cost. So this would have run you about $90 for 20 grams. Instead, we spent $80 for 9.6 grams. So I will get to the quality in a second, but definitely the price for the size compared to originals in the collection, it is definitely an upcharge. So now going in here, this is the finishing shade, or what they call on the website the ambient lighting powder in Surreal Light, which is a sheer nude. On the back of this palette, it does say it's a finishing powder though. So it does have, when you look really, really close, which it won't even pick it up on camera, very finely milled little sparkles in here. However, it does not translate onto the skin whatsoever. It pretty much just comes off completely kind of demi-matte on the skin. I don't want to say flat matte, because everything about, you know, Hourglass is not matte. It's like a beautiful luminous glow from within type of thing. So it's definitely just got a really nice kind of sheer finishing powder. I do really like the powder. It's really nice. It smooths things out. It makes you, like it says, look younger. You just look refreshed. It's just a beautiful powder. So I do like this. I don't know if it's totally worth the price, if to spend all the money just to get this powder, but this is probably one of my favorite powders in this palette. I do think it's really nice. So then right here is what they're calling a bronzer, and I will show you a comparison in a second to the bronzer that I have, but I guess I'll go ahead and mention it now. I do think this palette is most suited, even though it says it's suited for everyone, for people with those lighter skin tones. I do have a tan still from summer. I'd say I'm kind of on the light to medium side, and this really does not show up too well for me as an actual bronzer. So I think if you're medium and deeper skin tones, some of these shades, like these 2 right here, are not going to show up super well. I think this one will, because it's pigmented and it's bright pink, but these two right here, especially this one that they're calling a bronzer, I don't think this is going to be a bronzer for all skin tones, so do keep that in mind. But this one is called Surreal Bronze Light, which is described as a neutral tan with a surreal light. So let me show you right here. Here's what it looks like, but I find that it has a little bit of a red undertone to it. And not like a red warm undertone where it's like, oh, an orangey one. It's just kind of got this like a little bit of a terracotta, like reddish, pinky undertone to it. So let me share with you guys a swatch of the other bronzer I have. And this one is called Luminous Bronze Light. And so I want to share with it next to it because they do look really, really different. And some people do find that the Hourglass Ambient powders for bronzers do have a little bit of an orangey undertone. And I think they do, especially right now when you're comparing it to something that has more of a red undertone. But when I put it on my skin, it just looks really warm and really, really pretty and inviting and bronzy. And it's not too orange. But when you swatch them right now next to each other, it does look pretty orange. But this one definitely kind of has like a reddish undertone to it. It's definitely a very, very interesting bronze color. And like I said, I don't think it's going to show up on people with medium or darker skin tones. There is a darker bronzer shade in the collection. I happen to have the lighter one. So then let's move on to the two blushes. And so this one is called Surreal Glow, which is described as a pale peony pink with surreal light. Now this one I find is kind of a really light mauve-y pink. And it's really, really light. I find that it's definitely a lot more diffused once you actually swatch it and apply it on the skin. These two, when I apply them as a bronzer and a blush, they get very muddled together and it's really hard to tell which is which. And they definitely come off a lot more muted and diffused once you apply them to the skin than when you're swatching them. So definitely what's in the pan is going to come off lighter on your skin as well. So here's what that one is going to look like. Then the one next to it is much brighter and the most pigmented one in the palette. And this one is called Surreal Effect, which is a cool pink rose with a soft, warm peach, because they do kind of have these swirled effects in there. So that's why it has two colors. So here is what it looks like. It's a really pretty bright pink. This is one I think that is going to suit a lot of skin tones and show up on people. Now all of these, except for this one, do have noticeable shimmer in it. They are very finely milled and they just give you that really pretty effect, but they do have shimmer that shows up a little bit more than this finishing powder. Now the last one in here, which I had really, really, really high hopes for, this one is called Ambient Strobe Lighting Powder in Surreal Strobe Light, and this is described as a glimmering peach. And so let me swatch it up top for you. Here's what it looks like. And it looks really, really pretty when you swatch it. But let me go ahead and preface why I had such high expectations for this and then tell you kind of like what the disappointments were. But I have diffused light. This is probably one of my holy grail, most coveted, most beautiful highlighter in the world if you want that natural, radiant glow. It's not going to be like they say on reviews that I see all the time, like a glazed donut effect or like beaming from the moon type effect. But if you want to look like people are just going to stop and be like, I don't know what it is about you, but there's like a glow and you just look stunning. Like that's what the ambient lighting powders are. They're amazing. Diffused light is my absolute favorite. I'm doing the makeup for my friend's wedding in October. We just did the trial run for her makeup a couple weeks ago when I went down there for the bachelorette party. And I'm telling you, when I put this on, it looks so gorgeous. She looked beautiful. Like she just looked like she glowed from within and was radiant, but yet it's not that highlight that's going to pop in photography or anything. It just looks amazing. I'm telling you, it looks amazing. It makes everyone look amazing. I love this, but yet it gives you that really natural look, and you just look like you're glowing from within. I can't say that enough because it's like magic. You look at it and you're just like, what is it about you? Like there's something about you that I'm like just intrigued. That's what these powders are. So that's what I was expecting by that Surreal Light in here, the strobing powder. I was expecting it to have the effect that diffused light has on me. But I put it on, it was pretty at first, kind of had a little bit of an effect like diffused light, and then I wore it throughout the day and I was just like, wait a second. It's like to the point where it's like undetectable almost. Like it's too natural. It's too like very glow from within. It was to the point where like I wasn't even noticing it. It didn't have very lasting staying power. And it just did not live up to my expectations of the other ambient powders in the collection like diffused light. Like the ones in this palette, which was the ambient lighting palette that released last year. Like, it doesn't have the same effect as these. It's almost to the point where it's undetectable and unnoticeable, and that's not what I want from an $80 palette. I want it to be a little bit more noticeable, and so I really wanted it to be like diffused light in a palette form, and it just wasn't. So that was disappointing as well. Now, as far as the quality goes of the actual products in the palette compared to, you know, original items in the collection, I do find that these are more powdery and have much more kick up and feel a tad bit chalkier compared to the original formulas of the blush, of the ambient powders, of the ambient bronzers, and things like that. And so for me, that was kind of disappointing. I do think it is really fantastic to get, you know, a blush, a bronzer, a finishing powder, and a highlighter all in one palette, but I was hoping that they would be the same amazing quality as the originals. Don't get me wrong, they are still really nice. They're just not quite as smooth and velvety as the originals. Those I don't have kick up with, and they just glide on the skin and look beautiful. These I do have quite a bit of kick up with, and I find that they're just muted. Like, I don't know how else to describe it, but these colors are just very muted and just very quiet and just very diffused. And so when you put it on the skin, they just really even diffuse more, and they're not quite as like ultra in your face pigmented as some of the other items in my collection. Like, for instance, I have this mauve shade, which is a blush, which is called Mood Exposure. And this one, which, let me kind of put it over here. It's still, even though it's a mauve shade, it's still really, really pretty and pigmented, and what you see here is what I get on my hand, whereas the other ones, I feel like they just kind of get diffused and get lost once you actually apply them to the skin, and that the bronzer and the blush right here are very similar once you actually apply them. And so I think overall for me, this is a leave it. I'm going to actually return this because for $80, you get a very, very small amount of products. I don't think they're quite as amazing as the original formulas, and so if you're someone like me that already has a blush, a bronzer, a diffuse light, you know, ambient powders and things like that in your collection, I think you're actually better off just staying with those. So I do think if you're willing to spend the money, you don't have anything else in your collection, you're more of those fair to light skin tones, this may be a really nice palette for you because it's travel friendly, you get a little bit of everything, and the quality is still good. It's still Hourglass quality, it's still really good. I just don't think it's amazing like the original formula. So for me, it's a leave it. For some people, I think it's going to be a like it depending on your collection and, you know, the price and the money and all that kind of stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed this love it or leave it segment on the new Hourglass holiday palette and found it helpful. If you did, give this video a big thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you can stay tuned to all my upcoming videos. And I'll see you guys very soon. Bye!